In today's world, we use energy for just about everything, from turning on our stoves, when we use our cell phone, and even when we're sitting still in a traffic jam. But where does all this energy come from? Well, it comes from many different sources and can be categorized into two types, renewable and non-renewable resources. If a resource has a limited supply in the world, it's considered a non-renewable resource. The amount of these resources available on Earth cannot keep up with the amount that humans use on a daily basis. There are four types of these energy sources: coal, oil, natural gas, which are all fossil fuels, and nuclear energy. Renewable energy is when the resource can be replenished over a relatively short period of time. These energy sources exist freely in nature and could last humans infinitely. Some types of renewable energy are wind, solar, and hydro energy. Plants and animals that lived millions of years ago eventually turned into organic matter, which was put under tons of heat and pressure over millions of years. This turned into what we now know as fossil fuels, or coal, oil, and natural gas. If we rely too much on these fossil fuels and use it all up, we won't be able to have more until another couple million years, which is why it's considered a non-renewable resource. There are different ways to extract these resources. We dig up coal from the ground, find them in underground mines, or even blow up mountaintops using dynamite. People use high-pressured water and chemicals as drills to access oil and natural gas that are trapped in the rocks. You can find these drills on land and in oceans. When the resources are finally extracted from the earth, people burn these fuels to produce heat to create steam, which spins turbines, making electricity. When fossil fuels are burned, they release greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, and this gas gets trapped in the earth, changing the climate. These gases also cause air pollution. China heavily relies on coal, but because they burn so much of it for electricity, they have bad air pollution and can almost never see the sun because of it. Oil spills can happen when people extract the resource out, and it's especially dangerous when these occur around water because it's difficult to clean up this oil and can harm all the aquatic life. But because fossil fuels are cheap and accessible to developed countries, we heavily rely on them, despite all the downsides. There's a very strong energy that's stored in the central core of an atom, but to use that energy, it must be released. We use uranium, an element that can be mined from the earth, to create this nuclear reaction. So much heat is produced during this reaction, it creates a high-pressure steam, which spins turbines that create electricity. Nuclear energy is also a non-renewable resource because we can run out of uranium, but it is more eco-friendly compared to fossil fuels. Unlike fossil fuels, nuclear energy doesn't emit pollutants. It also produces a lot of electricity with such a small amount of resource, so large countries rely on nuclear energy. So, it's better for the environment and safer for humans, right? Well, nuclear reactions are very powerful and can cause accidents. There have been several cases of power plants exploding, and after all the uranium has been used, it creates nuclear waste. If the body is exposed to this radiation for too long, no, you won't get superpowers like in the movies. It's actually pretty harmful. Even though it could be potentially dangerous, nuclear energy could be a good alternative to fossil fuels. In fact, the US is currently the #1 producer of nuclear energy. Let's look at other alternative resources people use today: renewable energy. Solar power is energy that is produced by the sun. Solar cells are devices that convert sunlight directly into electricity. You need a lot of solar cells to create solar panels, which can be installed on top of roofs, buildings, or areas that are constantly under the sun. Solar energy is considered a renewable resource because the sun rises every day, making it a constant available resource for us. The technology that turns the sun's energy into electricity doesn't emit any air or water pollutants like fossil fuels, which is great for the environment. However, solar panels need to be in specific places, and the amount of sunlight that these panels get also depends on the time of day, what season it is, and what the weather is like. So, while solar panels are a great alternative to non-renewable resources, there are some limiting factors to this energy source. Because it isn't very reliable, only 0.5% of the electricity used in the US is produced by solar energy. People have been using wind power for generations, using sails on boats to travel, or grinding grain using a windmill. Today, we use huge wind turbines to turn generators, creating electricity. Wind power is considered a renewable resource because wind is always blowing and readily available to us. Wind turbines don't release pollutants when they spin and create electricity, so they are a cleaner alternative to fossil fuels. Wind turbines only produce 5% of the total electricity in the US because you need a lot of these turbines to produce enough power. They need to be in a constantly windy area, so wind farms are usually situated in plains. Some people also think that turbines aren't pretty to look at and they can get incredibly loud when those blades spin, so they'd rather use another type of energy source. Energy that is produced by moving water is called hydropower. Flowing water moves through blades in a turbine, which is attached to a generator that produces electricity. Generators produce more electricity when water flows faster, so dams and waterfalls are good places to produce hydro energy. It is a renewable energy source because water is constantly running through rivers and oceans. Just like all other renewable energy sources, hydroelectricity does not emit any bad pollutants, but it can still negatively affect the environment. Dams can disrupt fish migration and even destroy habitats, but people have come up with a solution to help fish migrate alongside the dam. They have created fish ladders so fish can just swim up with ease. 7% of the total electricity in the US is produced by hydroenergy because it's more convenient than the other renewable resources. These types of energy sources play such an important part in our everyday lives. While we rely mostly on non-renewable resources today because of convenience, we also now know the benefits of alternative renewable resources and how it could be better for the environment.